This is the Grow Your Clinic podcast from Clinic Mastery. We help progressive health professionals to lead inspired teams, transform client experiences, and build clinics for good. Now, it's time to grow your clinic.
Welcome back to another episode of the Grow Your Clinic podcast. My name is Jack O'Brien, and I'm super pumped to be back in the saddle bringing you another episode today. We have another guest joining us. We have John Hollenberg from 5x5 Online Marketing. John, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Thanks for having me, Jack. Yeah, going really good.
That's awesome. Where are you coming to us from today? Where are you based?
I'm at the slightly rainy Gold Coast, normally sunny. Yeah, it's a good part of the world here.
Yeah, it is. It is absolute paradise. Now, I'm really excited to dive into some really current and cutting edge marketing stuff with you. That's your background. That's what you guys do. But before we get to that, I've got a couple of rapid fire questions for you, so we get to know who John Hollenberg really is. Are you ready?
Sounds good, mate.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. Question number 1: what are you reading or learning right now?
So I've just finished a book called Outwitting the Devil. This sounds pretty deep. By a guy called Napoleon Hill, who was sort of back in the 20s and the 30s, Think and Grow Rich fame. Mm-hmm. And this book he wrote at that time, and it was suppressed for many years. It was deemed too controversial. And it sort of, I think it was published by his grandchildren who had inherited all his IP and all the back catalogue and all that sort of stuff. And the basic premise is it's sort of told in a bit of a storytelling fashion, and Napoleon Hill corners the devil and sort of gives him the third degree in like a courtroom style scenario.
Right.
And somehow, miraculously forces the devil to reveal his secrets. And one of the secrets, or the primary sort of theme of the book, the primary tool that the devil uses is called the drift, right? So how he uses his powers of mind control is he essentially just allows people to drift through life. And if you think about it and reflect on, most people, they're drifting in some form or shape in their life, whether it's through their business, physically, through their relationships. And ultimately what the devil uses is the march of time, which is a universal truth, to basically, the devil's playing the long game, and he will outlast you. So really, the decision in that book is, either drift or decide to do something. So either you're moving forward or you're going backwards, which I thought, is really sort of timely this time of year, where a lot of people reflect on that sort of stuff.
I like it, mate. That's been recommended to me also by a mutual mentor of ours, and It's on my Amazon wish list, but it hasn't made it through to Kindle yet, so I might pull the trigger tonight.
It's pretty interesting.
Get started on that.
It's funny to read, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Question number 2: who inspires you?
I've got a lot of inspirational people in my life. I've got to say, my wife, she also is a business owner, and I've been in business for 14 years this January. She started her business sort of 4 or 5 years ago, and just watching the progress that she made in that shorter period of time to get to a certain point was really, really inspiring. And so I've taken a few leaves out of her book of late. We got a really inspirational team, so making sure that we're surrounded by people that are just generally better at stuff, like building websites, than me. We got some great mentors, and you mentioned a mutual mentor, a guy called Dave Dugan. He's been a big influence in my life. I actually had the opportunity to meet a long-time mentor last year, a guy called Richard Branson, which I'm sure everyone is aware of. I met him.
Little known guy, yeah.
That's right. I met him over in South Africa in November. And I got to hang out with him for a few days, which was pretty awesome, because what that guy has achieved is pretty outstanding.
I like it. Now, I'm assuming you didn't grow up wanting to build websites. What did you want to be growing up?
I always thought I'd be an architect, similar to George Costanza. In Seinfeld, George was like, I'm an architect, right? Just playing the card. So I don't know whether it was that, or I just like the idea of architecture, but I was really inspired by design and computers and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I went down the digital path. Yeah.
Nice. And what's a motto that you live by?
So when people ask us what we do here at 5x5, we're not just building websites to generate leads and inquiries. What we are doing is we're really sharing people's magic with the world. So every single business owner has magic that they're sharing. So I think it's just a really good motto for life. So everyone has some unique brilliance, and really like their purpose in life is to share that with the world.
I love it, mate. Simple, but profound.
Yeah.
And I think that'll really resonate with health professionals because, in a way, it's a similar service. It can be seen to be commoditized. You know, people look at websites, it's like, oh, every agency is the same, or every physio practice, speech clinic is the same. But yeah, it is. It's bringing magic and transforming people's worlds. That's what we do 100%. On a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
So, okay, that's awesome, mate. Thank you for sharing a little bit behind the curtain. I'd love to know what's been the journey of getting you from that young fellow who wanted to be an architect through to now, starting and leading a website design agency. What are the pieces?
Oh, it's been a long journey. As I said, 14 years. I started out in my boardies, sitting in my spare bedroom, knocking together websites, and very much I was the technician for many years. Probably wasn't until I actually got married and had kids and really like started taking the business a lot more seriously. So yeah, my wife said, yes, you will be present at the birth of our child, and you won't be working 12 hours a day, and you'll take a couple of weeks off to share this experience with us and all this sort of important stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, I better do all that sort of stuff. So employed my first employee and failed horribly and learned a whole bunch of lessons, and then did it again and probably made some more mistakes. And then from that, really just over the next probably 7 or 8 years, ultimately I've tried to do myself out of a job. So we've got a team of 25 people now. We've got designers and developers and programmers and copywriters and SEO experts and all these sort of people that just do the stuff better than me now, which is really, really awesome.
Interesting, mate. And so how do you grow? How did that happen? You don't just end up with a team of 25. That's quite deliberate, I'd assume.
Yeah. So look, very much it has been organic growth, probably really where things have turbocharged have been over the last 4 years, where we've consistently grown 30% year on year.
Okay.
It's like what the secret to it is just replacing my time with team. So it's sort of this fine line that I think every business owner walks, where you've got to swing from one branch to the next. And in doing so, you need to let go at some point. And letting go is that very scary part where it's going to is this going to work? Will I get a return on my investment? And really the last 4 years have been a series of those decisions time and time again. So it's like employing a designer and then employing a full-time project manager and then employing a full-time salesperson and then appointing a CEO in the business now and all this sort of stuff. Just happens. But with a view of a clear plan that, out on the distance, this is what we're working towards.
I love it, mate. And I think that'll really resonate with a lot of clinic owners who are in the same space. They often start a clinic in the spare room of their house, or their parents' place, or maybe in a medical center, and end up working towards creating the freedom so that they might be able to come off the tools or empower young health professionals. So for listeners, I think there's a lot of synergy between perhaps your story and John's story. And if you're interested, we're going to throw it in now to check out John's company. It's 5by5.com.au, and that's all spelt out, right? All in letters. And Correct. We'll link all that up over in our show notes at clinicmastery.com/podcast. So I don't want to leave that to the end. I want to throw that out there and make sure, listeners, if you want to check out what John's company does, that's the place to go. It's 5by5.com.au. So John, tell us, let's touch on the nitty gritty of marketing and, you build websites. That's what you do. What is it about websites that isn't working now in 2020? And what are some of the keys to a good website in 2020?
I think there's a couple of things. So you've got all the old, spammy techniques of trying to manipulate search engines and all that sort of stuff. Google have evolved to a point where they're very intuitive and aware of, who you are and your presence in the world and how you compare against your competitors. So trying to do that sort of stuff will be sort of doomed for failure. But I think just like from a psychological perspective, it's in authenticity. So not being your authentic true self, which sort of comes back to that whole sharing your magic with the world. Like ultimately you hiding behind a whole bunch of stock photos and a faceless website no longer cuts the mustard because people, your website is your shop front, and someone's shopping around for a new podiatrist or a physio or something like that. They're potentially going to check out your website and get a feel for you and your organization and your philosophy and your take on the world and all that sort of important stuff. So the spoils will go to the business or the individual that shares the most information around their product, their services, how they do it, their process. Basically give away as much as you can around your systems or your IP or anything like that. Because ultimately, like, people still need help. They want help and they're going to reach out, but they're going to partner with someone who they feel most comfortable with.
All right, so I'm going to pull on a few threads there and put myself in a clinic owner's shoes and think, yeah, righto, John, but what if I put all my content out there and be as helpful as possible? Are people just going to take advantage of that, sort themselves out, and never going to come and see us? Are we doing ourselves out of a job by being really good with content?
People still need the help, right? So it's not as if they can, adjust themselves or information has ultimately come free in the fact that anyone can go to YouTube or Google and find out how to do anything in this world, largely. So, very much information has become commoditized, and but as I said, people still want the service, so they want to be guided through that. They and people who say establish themselves as that authority or that expert are the ones that people are ultimately going to partner with.
You're right. It really is an authority play and positioning yourself as the expert able to solve people's problems, right?
100%.
So again, if I play devil's advocate, there's already so much good quality information on the internet from all different sources all around the globe. Is there a local benefit to still putting out maybe the same content that exists, but just for our local region?
So obviously localizing your content, if that's where your target audience is, makes perfect sense. The more localized it is, the more sort of customized it is to, maybe issues or trends in a specific area, even just from a social proof perspective. So, it's the client's journey doesn't actually start on the homepage of your website. It actually starts a step before them when they say, Google Physio Gold Coast or something like that, where they're looking at your Google reviews and that social proof element as well to see how you stack up against your competitors. Are you actively, eliciting reviews if you're allowed to, depending on the sort of style of allied health business you are? I know some have specific caveats around that and all that sort of stuff, but that's where that social proof element also comes into play.
And what about design? You mentioned, the psychological elements of a website and authenticity. Are there any keys or elements that we should consider on our website from a design perspective that will help with that authenticity?
Yeah, so I'm a passionate believer that design is a big differentiator and a lever that a business owner can pull in their business. And really, like, the foundation of that is your brand.
Right.
So, your logo, your corporate colors, typography, all these sort of foundational elements, are they consistent? Because, the human brain gets very switched on and is very pleased when they see consistent use of brand, whether it's across your website, across your physical print collateral, whether it's through your social media, all that sort of stuff, right? So that's a big thing that we talk about, is getting your foundation, your brand right. Obviously that then flows through the user interface, so making sure that it's just good, clean, intuitive, simplistic design. We like lots of white space, not making logos too big and all that sort of stuff, right? So you can tell a good polished interface when you see it. And also layering in, stunning visuals. So that might be good quality photography. So actually getting very much like a customized photo shoot done, shooting your team properly, shooting your facilities, your equipment, simulating what a client journey actually looks like. So you just imagine like a client coming through to you for the first time, they literally open the door, right? So you want pictures of all this sort of stuff and guiding someone through that journey step by step, because ultimately that's what people are looking for. They want to know what to expect when they visit you and your practice.
I guess the website is such a key to be able to address people's fears or set their expectations for what will eventually, ultimately be an in-person experience, but perhaps we can vanguard, go ahead and really shape and refine that experience before they step foot through the doors. You mentioned, if we wind back a little bit, you mentioned that people potentially might check out your website. Do you have any insights around how important a website is, or how many people will actually Google you or check out your website before deciding to make a buying decision, or in a health case, a booking decision?
Yeah. So I guess using us as an example, we generate leads from all around the place, whether it's off the back of SEO, so someone say searching on website designer Gold Coast, through referrals, like physical referrals. So we've got a lot of partners that we work with. We've got a good name in the industry. They're like, go chat to John, he'll sort you out. We run paid advertising. We've got a bunch of social stuff as well. But in all of those instances, people will still check out our website to get that validation that you are who you say you are. Even from a referral perspective, people will search us and check out our portfolio and the sort of clients we work with, maybe the team, some of the content we've created, all that sort of stuff. So very much the website is that validation piece in the mix, regardless of where the source comes from.
Yeah, 100%. I'd almost go to say it'd have to be, I don't know the stats, have to be over 95% of clients coming through a health clinic will find their website and will check you out online. And so having that really authentic, up-to-date website really does matter. So that's awesome, John. Thank you for those insights. I want to change gears and let's switch to the leadership element. Listeners here would be business owners, clinic owners who are leading a small team, perhaps a growing team, much the same way you have. And we spoke about off air the fact that you're the founder, but you've just employed a CEO. Run us through that. Give us the story on how you've now got a CEO for your company.
Yeah, well, so I sort of spoke about, swinging from branch to branch and the letting go moment. There's been lots of those. The long and short of it is I have been the blockage in this business for so long in terms of us being able to grow and scale. And I've got a really good group. We're sort of like the virtual board of directors. So we catch up every 4 months. We put together a bit of a State of the Union style address. We catch up in like a conference room in a hotel, and we sort of open up the kimono, as to say, right? So that includes all the numbers. So the story a business owner tells and the story that the numbers tell are usually two different stories. Business owners are very optimistic people, whereas the numbers may not always reflect that. So we then sit in this hot seat up the front of a room. It's filmed, so you get tremendous insights around body language and reaction,
yes,
and all that sort of stuff. And we've been doing this for a couple of years now, so there's a tremendous amount of trust and intimacy in the room, and it's uncomfortable. And that's why we do it, because it is highly uncomfortable. People will, and the universe generally does, shine a spotlight on where the deficiencies are. Until you resolve these issues or deal with them head on, they will continue to be a theme in your life, I think, generally. So I was given the advice that I needed to get out of the way, and I need to get out quick smart so that other people, probably more capable and a better fit, can go and shine and be brilliant and do better stuff than me. So that was that basically happened as of last week. Carla Schesser, she's our CEO. She's a pretty amazing girl. She's 25 years old and has been in our business for 2.5 years, and now she's leading a team of 25 people and absolutely crushing it. So it's basically just freed up a whole bunch of mental bandwidth for me to then go and innovate, to go form partnerships, to do that sort of bigger picture thinking around what it is we're trying to get done here, and then how we're going to pull all those pieces of the puzzle together to really continue that trajectory of growth.
Wow, mate, there's a few threads that we could pull on there, but let's go down the board angle. I'm sure you're no stranger to sort of input and coaching, mentoring, that sort of thing.
Yes.
What inspired you to find a board as opposed to just having one direct mentor?
So to give it a little bit more context, there's 10 different business owners in the room. Probably half the businesses are actually bigger than our business, and significantly bigger, which is really helpful just in terms of them pulling you along and actually seeing how a bigger business operates, the mechanics of that, and the mindset that has to go into that. That has been a really, really helpful thing. The other thing is you get completely different personalities. I think you're familiar with wealth dynamics, and you get strong steel energy. So I'm an accumulator, so I've got more of that steel energy. But then you get the stars and more of the blaze energy and all that sort of stuff. So everyone sort of brings something to the table. And I think as a business owner, you've got to have each of those elements. So that's what it does for me, and keeps me super accountable, because I'm very productive in those 2 or 3 weeks leading up to the board, because I don't want to show up to that room and sit in front of 10 other businesses and say, I haven't done my homework, because they are not going to tolerate that, and they probably won't re-invite you back into the room again if you do that consistently. So pretty powerful.
That's awesome, mate. And having that multitude of counsel of perspectives is definitely opens up a lot of brilliant insights.
Yeah.
John, you mentioned that you knew that you were the bottleneck or the problem with your business, and were you conscious of the need to find a CEO or to replace yourself? What was it that finally tipped you over the edge to make that decision?
That is a really, really great question. And I've done a bunch of Tony Robbins stuff. He talks about significance being a very strong driver in people's lives. And I think every business owner that's listening to this has so much of their identity and their life wrapped up in their business, right? It's who they are. It's like this badge, right? It's like, I'm John, the business owner, and I'm, 5x5 is like another child, right? So for someone like me who gets a tremendous amount of validation and my dopamine hit when I get clients saying, oh, John, you and your team are amazing and all this sort of stuff, it means me stepping aside and letting other people get that hit, as so to say. And it's really about readjusting that significance so that other people can shine.
That's awesome, mate. So tell me, I'm sure you're very good at your craft as a technician. I'm assuming there's come a time now where your team have become experts in their own little niches and has essentially gotten better at your job than you were.
Definitely.
How do you reconcile that as a leader? How do you process that?
I think as a leader, it's really just getting the broad brush strokes to make sure that you've got the checks and balances, that stuff's happening when it needs to happen. What's the ultimate measure that we're working towards, and it's customer satisfaction, and the scoreboard is the financials. That's how we're measuring the game. Are we moving forward and putting dollars into a bank account and, making an impact in the world and doing meaningful work and all that sort of stuff. So they're probably a few of the things that are at play there. But really it's just, trust. It's trusting your team to know that they're aligned, that they're all on the same page from a vision perspective, and then how they go about doing it. I actually don't really care how they get the outcome, right? Because I've been removed from the work for maybe 2 years now, and the whole system's completely evolved. The system that I built doesn't look the same as the system that's in place now, and that's because there's tweaks and enhancements and much better ways of doing things, which is awesome. But I don't know how to do it. But I just know that it produces a consistent outcome, and the clients are happy.
That's awesome, mate. It's if I can distill that down and try and summarize what I'm picking up and that I would be taking notes on, it's that you said your primary role now is defining that end goal and
Yes.
having really articulated the vision really clearly. And you've led a team to a place where you can trust them to do the work without you having to micromanage them. I'm thinking about a clinic owner, and you mentioned the scoreboard. Like, what really matters at the end of the day, it's the number of people helped. Like, are we driving people towards healthier outcomes and positive experiences? And as a practitioner, as a health practitioner, you don't need to necessarily define exactly what manipulation they do or what therapy they use, what technique they use, but create an environment where they can thrive and you can trust them to deliver the outcome. So, John, the question then is, have you ever had your trust violated? When you empower people in a service environment to the extent that you do and we do, what do you do when team don't live up or take advantage of you?
Look, I think there's always going to be times where maybe there's a degree of disappointment for whatever reason, right? But I say that as more as a coaching issue that, I'd say it's actually my fault. I haven't documented this as well as I should have. I haven't trained this person in as much detail as I should have, or I didn't clearly articulate what is the outcome that we wanted. So there's ambiguity there or misalignment or whatever. So ultimately the buck stops with me, 100%. So I just see it more as a coaching issue, and then you just reframe it in your head. Mm-hmm. But look, if you haven't got trust, then you've got nothing in your business. And if you don't trust your employees, then you might want to take a good hard look at that. But yeah, if you got to be able to trust people at the end of the day.
So if I can press on that a little deeper, if you're taking ultimate responsibility or it's extreme ownership, whatever title we want to put on it, how does that conversation go when someone drops the ball, but yet you're taking ownership? Run me through that conversation.
So I would probably reflect, as I said, on the outcome or the expected outcome that was needed. And then so really clearly define that and say, I accept full responsibility that I have not defined that as well as I should have, or maybe you didn't have the tools or the knowledge or the know-how or the training to be able to achieve that. But here's the plan for us again. And really just get their input and their feedback around that.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. Really appreciate you getting really granular and sharing those insights. Mate, I've been really inspired on a practical sense when it comes to websites, marketing, positioning, but also on that 30,000-foot leadership perspective and leading teams and creating an environment where we're creating massive impact through other people, and it doesn't all depend on you. It's been a fascinating insight. Thank you so much for sharing. If people want to learn a little bit more about you and what 5x5 does, as well as you personally, where should we go, mate, and how do we do that?
Yeah, probably the best point would be 5by5.com.au, fivebyfive.com.au. I've published a book called Love at First Sight, SITE, and it's basically no BS guide to getting your website built. If you read it, you're not going to know how to physically, code up a website, but what you are going to do is you're going to know how to brief and partner with a website designer to make sure that there's no ambiguity in that project, that you put together a great brief, that you know the tools, the process that you need to go through, how to drive traffic, create content, use great design, all that sort of stuff. So there's a free audiobook version of that on the website that you can listen to on Spotify. And yeah, that's probably the best point.
That's awesome, mate. We will make sure we link all that up in the show notes. Listeners, you can head over to clinicmastery.com/podcast, and we will have all the appropriate links there, as well as to some of John's social profiles, and you can follow along with the shenanigans there as well. John, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Grow Your Clinic podcast, mate.
Thanks for having me, Jack. Awesome to connect.
It has been a pleasure. Listeners, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your honest reviews and ratings over on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to this podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to bring you another episode again really soon. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to the Grow Your Clinic podcast. To find out more about past episodes or how we can help you, head to www.clinicmastery.com/podcast. And please remember to rate and review us on your podcast player of choice. See you on the next episode.